On a frigid winter night, deep in the remote wilderness of the Canadian Rockies, a solitary woman named Clara Hayes noticed two mountain lions prowling near the edge of her property. The majestic yet desperate animals seemed more frightened than threatening, their piercing eyes reflecting a silent plea for help. They scratched at her door, their claws tapping softly against the wood, as if asking for refuge. When Clara opened the door, she was unprepared for the extraordinary encounter that awaited her. What could these freezing mountain lions need? And why were they seeking the warmth of a human home instead of staying in the wild? Clara Hayes was no stranger to the brutal winters of the Rockies. She had lived in her sturdy log cabin for over 2 decades, weathering the harshest storms and coldest nights. Her home, nestled in a secluded valley, was a sanctuary against the relentless elements. Yet, despite her experience, she was not prepared for what awaited her on this snowy evening. After securing her cabin for the night, Clara settled by the fireplace with a steaming cup of tea, the crackling flames casting a warm glow across the room. But her peaceful evening was interrupted by faint scratching sounds and a soft, almost mournful cry. At first, she thought it might be a stray lynx or a lost dog, but when she peered through the frosted window, her heart skipped a beat. On her porch stood two mountain lions, their sleek coats matted with snow, their breath visible in the icy air. They showed no signs of aggression, but trembled from cold and exhaustion. One of them let out a weak growl, a plea for help. Clara hesitated, torn between instinct and caution. Mountain lions were wild predators, but these two seemed more desperate than dangerous. Despite her reservations, she grabbed a flashlight and cautiously opened the door. The larger mountain lion stepped closer, its eyes not gleaming with malice, but with urgent need. In that moment, Clara's fear gave way to empathy. What had driven these animals to seek refuge with a human? And could her act of kindness put her in danger? This was the beginning of an extraordinary encounter between a solitary woman and two wild mountain lions, an encounter that would test Clara's courage, challenge her understanding of nature, and lead to an unpredictable outcome. As she stood in the doorway, her heart raced as she watched the mountain lions crouched in the swirling snow. The temperature was freezing, and she could see the animals trembling under their fur. Their wide, glowing eyes pleaded with her for shelter and warmth. It was a poignant yet moving sight, wild predators seeking refuge. Clara gripped the doorknob and hesitated. Reason told her it would be madness to let mountain lions into her home. They were unpredictable, potentially dangerous wild animals. But as she looked into their tormented eyes, her conviction grew that they posed no threat. Their trembling and exhausted faces spoke of need, not hostility. She took a deep breath, made her decision, and opened the door wider. Fighting against the icy wind, she beckoned the mountain lions inside. The mountain lions seemed to share a moment of silent understanding before cautiously stepping forward. Their paws left soft prints in the snow as they crossed the threshold into the warm cabin, their bodies visibly relaxed, as if shedding the heavy burden of survival in the icy wilderness. With dignified grace, they entered the living room and paused briefly behind the door. Clara moved slowly to avoid startling them, then closed the door, muffling the howling wind. Silently, she prayed that her decision was the right one. The mountain lions paused for a moment, their breaths loud in the silence of the cabin. Gradually, they began to explore their surroundings with cautious curiosity, sniffing at the furniture and the small stack of firewood by the fireplace. Clara watched them from a short distance. One of the mountain lions, slightly smaller with a scar across its shoulder, limped slightly, favoring its right leg. Its ribs protruded, revealing a long period of hunger. The larger mountain lion had a deep gash across its flank. Despite their emaciated state, they moved with a restrained elegance, without haste or restlessness. Clara was fascinated by their wild, simple beauty. She walked to the fireplace and added another log, intensifying the warmth. The flames flickered, casting lively shadows across the room, and bathing it in a cozy light. The mountain lions seemed captivated by the fire. One of them let out a soft growl as it approached the warmth, perhaps for the first time. As the cabin warmed further, Clara realized she urgently needed to provide food. She rummaged through her modest pantry and brought out some meat originally intended for her own dinner. She wasn't sure if it was wise to give the mountain lions raw meat, but given their condition, she saw no other option. She placed a few raw pieces on a plate and set it on the floor, then stepped back to observe their reaction. The smaller mountain lion approached hesitantly, sniffing the air, before cautiously eating. Soon, the larger mountain lion followed, and together they quickly devoured the meal. Their eyes seemed to show a hint of relief and gratitude. Clara felt a wave of compassion rise within her. How long had it been since they last ate? Nature was merciless, and the icy cold made it nearly impossible for weak or injured animals to hunt. After they were satiated, their tense bodies relaxed slightly. Clara, still maintaining a safe distance, sank into her chair by the fireplace. She was aware of the potential danger, but their presence filled her with a strange sense of calm. They seemed exhausted, possibly barely surviving. Their natural caution had been overridden by the necessity to endure. The fact that they accepted her proximity showed how desperate they were, and that they trusted her. Over time, a peculiar sense of community developed. Clara kept the fire going, flipped through an old novel she already knew by heart, while the mountain lions rested uneasily. Occasionally their heads jerked up at a sound, whether the whistling wind or the soft crackling of the fire. At one point, the larger mountain lion let out a soft growl in its sleep, its paws twitching slightly, as if chasing something in its dreams. Clara felt a sudden urge to comfort it, but held back, not wanting to disturb the silent understanding between them. As the night deepened, Clara prepared a makeshift sleeping area in the warmest corner of the cabin. She encouraged the mountain lions to settle there, laid out blankets, and added more logs to the fire to maintain the warmth. With visible exhaustion, they followed her invitation, curling up tightly and burying their noses under their tails. Clara watched them, realizing she also needed rest. The day had unfolded in a way she could never have imagined, and her fatigue was undeniable. Before going to sleep, she carefully checked the locks on the doors and windows, a vital habit in the wilderness. But today, these precautions seemed even more important than usual, with 2 wild animals sleeping under her roof. As she dimmed the light, she secretly hoped for an undisturbed night. She knew the stories about mountain lion sightings, but her instinct told her these two posed no danger. Dawn broke earlier than expected, the soft light of the rising sun filtering through the frosted windows. She expected chaos or signs of unrest, but instead found a peaceful scene. The mountain lions were already awake, watching her with exhausted but calm attention. After stoking the fire, she noticed that the smaller mountain lion's limp seemed more pronounced than the night before. It appeared to have worsened overnight. With growing concern, Clara slowly approached to see if it would let her come closer. She moved carefully, knelt down, and gently extended a hand. The mountain lion watched her motionlessly, as if understanding her intent. Cautiously, Clara touched the animal's hind leg, eliciting a soft growl of discomfort. But the mountain lion made no move to bite. Clara felt a swelling, possibly an old injury or frostbite. She knew medical intervention could be risky, but she couldn't just stand by and do nothing. "I'll do what I can," she murmured, as if the animal could understand her words. She stood up and fetched a simple first aid kit from the cabinet. Grateful for the knowledge she had gained during her years in the wilderness, she wasn't a veterinarian, but at least she knew how to clean and bandage a wound. The greater challenge was gaining the mountain lion's trust to allow the treatment. From the corner, The larger mountain lion watched Clara's every move attentively, its amber eyes following her with sharp focus. It seemed aware of the fragility of this trust, and appeared ready to intervene if necessary. Clara approached with utmost caution, kneeling beside the smaller mountain lion, which lay trembling on the blankets. In a calm, gentle tone, she spoke soothing words, hoping to ease its fear. If the mountain lion allowed her approach, she could help. If not, she would have to withdraw. Any wrong move could disrupt the delicate balance. The mountain lion looked up at her, its eyes reflecting a mix of fear and pain. Its body was tense, unsure whether to trust the human. Clara tapped gently on the blankets, encouraging it to stay still. To her relief, the mountain lion let out a soft whine and laid its head on its front paws. The larger mountain lion remained nearby, watchful and ready to intervene at the slightest threat. Clara opened the simple first aid kit, its contents more suited to human scrapes than the injuries of a wild animal. She had hardly used it before, aside from minor cuts while chopping wood. Now, she faced a far more demanding task and felt the weight of responsibility. Clara moved carefully, her voice a soft whisper, always mindful that the smaller mountain lion might react defensively out of fear. "It's okay," she reassured as she gently placed a folded towel under the injured hind leg. With an antiseptic-soaked cotton pad, she dabbed at the wound. The mountain lion let out a soft growl, but remained still. The injury wasn't severe, but was red and swollen, likely worsened by the cold and constant movement. Clara felt a pang of compassion, imagining the hardships this animal had endured in the merciless winter landscape. Nearby, the larger mountain lion paced restlessly, a deep, concerned rumble in its throat. Clara nodded reassuringly. "I'm doing my best," she said softly, as if the mountain lion could understand. She knew it was risky to speak aloud. Any sound could attract unwanted attention, but she hoped her calm tone would maintain a relaxed atmosphere. After tending to the wound and applying a light bandage, she examined the smaller mountain lion's paws, noticing cracked pads and early signs of frostbite. Gently, she applied a soothing ointment to the damaged skin and carefully wrapped the leg in gauze. The mountain lion twitched and let out a soft whine, but it allowed the treatment to proceed surprisingly calmly. When Clara finished, she exhaled in relief, only then realizing she had been holding her breath. "Done," she murmured, slowly withdrawing her hands. The mountain lion breathed heavily, almost like a sigh of relief. Clara smiled softly, feeling a deep connection to this creature. With the most urgent medical concerns addressed, Clara turned her attention to surviving the coming days. She checked her supplies and found there was enough meat left to feed the mountain lions again. But her reserves were dwindling. This realization weighed heavily on her. If the mountain lions stayed longer than a few days, she would need to find a way to replenish her stocks, a challenging task in the brutal Canadian winter. She decided to go out to gather more firewood and scout possible hunting grounds. As she put on her coat and gloves, she paused at the door and looked back. The mountain lions returned her gaze, but remained lying down, showing no signs of following her. "I'll be back soon," she whispered, a comforting reassurance for both the mountain lions and herself. Outside, an endless expanse of snow awaited her. The overcast sky hung low over the landscape, and the icy wind cut through her clothing. Step by step, she fought her way through deep snowdrifts to her woodpile at the edge of the property. She loaded some logs onto her sled, always keeping an eye out for potential dangers. Her mind was full of questions. Were these two mountain lions part of a larger pride? Had they been left behind? What would happen if their pride suddenly appeared?